got going, because this now was a federal thing. I lived under this cloud for 3 years. They came and got my records in '03, and it was in '06 when I finally was indicted for Medicaid fraud. White-collar crime. Again, I had a traffic ticket, and now I'm a white-collar crimer, facing 5 years in prison. Okay? And again, I go back and I say, man, I've been working hard, doing good things for good people. How did I get in this situation? And Joyce has talked so much about prayer. And I was a prayer, but this is kind of how it went. You know, good morning, thank you for today. Hope it's good. You know, I could use your help a little bit today. And we always said the blessing over our food. But to go to God for these kinds of things, I just wasn't there. Because I was problem solving it and doing it on my own. Okay. So the federal indictment was for $100,000 in reimbursement. When it came, we were like, wow. So I get turned over. I was booked, by the way. I left that out this morning. I was actually booked, fingerprinted, mugshot, all of that, and then they released me to my own way of doing things still. And so again, back in fight mode. How am I going to get myself out of this thing? And that's how it felt the whole time. Have you been to the airport on one of those moving sidewalks? Once you get on it, there's no getting off. You can't jump, well, you could jump over the side. I couldn't jump over the side. That would be extremely not pleasant. So, and you can't turn around and go back because there's a flood of people behind you. So you have to ride this thing out and see this thing through. And so that's where I was at. Lo and behold, the indictment changed along the way. And keep in mind, they had my records for 3 years. Went over them with a fine-tooth comb. And at first, it was $100,000, and for actually the level of business we were doing, that really, you know, you can come up with paperwork error. But they amended the indictment, and it actually was $9,200 that I was facing 5 years in prison for. Because they had to amend after they had gone back through. And again, this is a lot of stuff that probably doesn't mean to a lot of people. Some of you have been in this industry, but the last year I was open, we grossed over $2.5 million, which, remember, in business, everybody knows gross is different than net, so we were still doing okay, but $9,200 in recoupment is what it should have been, because they said, you know, you probably shouldn't have billed this, and giving them $9,200, I'd have been very satisfied to do that. But this became about, we told you no, you did it anyway. And for me, it became about, you know, I see things a little differently, I interpret the rules differently, and these clients need these things. Did a lot of advocating and lobbying in Boise. So the public exposure became very huge, and I took on a very big, powerful enemy. Scary thing. And they always have more money and more time and more whatever. So I'm at the mercy of a public defender who I had never met in my whole life. We had had a family-friendly attorney, you know, but this was a man I had never met in my whole life who now I felt like my life was in his hands. In '04, Tim started having more desire to return to church, and I'd kind of left some of that out earlier. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a church where, you know, maybe there's a little scandal ever, you know. And so we made the mistake of looking at people in situations instead of God, and my husband got a really bad taste in his mouth over something, so it got easier not to go. So I do recommend this. This is cool. You cannot do it without